So I'm here with my father. This is actually my dad.
Hello.
And you used to work in the clay modelling industry, didn't you?
The automotive design industry.
Automotive design industry.
I paid my debt to society. I put it all behind me, and I'm on the straight and narrow now.
So worked for Jaguar, Land Rover, Volkswagen,
Porsche, Opel,
Porsche.
Lotus.
There you go. So you know a little bit about cars.
The usual.
It's safe to say.
A tiny bit about.
Tiny bit about cars. Yes. Okay, fantastic. Well, we're going to look at. So this is context. It's the 16th of September. So we're halfway through the competition. It's not actually ended yet. We're going to look at some of the entries and some of the finished ones that have been submitted now. And we'll have an actual professional tell us his opinion of what everyone's done. So there you go. Let's have a look. So what we got? We got Matt Andrews to start us off with what looks like a Porsche covered in LEDs.
That's right. Well, I think it's a very nice futuristic Porsche with quite steroidal, quite pumped up.
It is. The big question I have. Okay, yes. So I'm trying to do this with one hand. It's lovely tyres, but is that actually a raw plug that he's stuck to the side of his car?
I think it is. A plas plug, yeah.
A plas plug for a
plasma cutting plas plug, yeah.
It's stuck on the side of the car.
I think it's right, actually. You could see that stealing along the boulevards of Los Angeles in the middle of the night. Night Rider. It's got all the illumination of your dreams, really.
I know. It's the little LED wheels that do it for me.
I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
So there you go. So very, very nice, very solid entry there.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Because there's something, a lot of people are trying to do these gimmicky builds with LEDs everywhere, and sometimes it looks really good, sometimes it looks a bit naff. I think that's done pretty well.
I think you have to read what car it's based on as well. That's the thing. I mean, with a lot of sort of gasland conversions, they're absolutely amazing. But you think, is it a 2CV or is it an old VW Bug?
Yeah, what am I looking at? Because the actual
what's going on?
The base car can get hidden,
and that can give you a sort of inkling as to how powerful it would be if it was spurting along. A 2CV wouldn't be going that fast, whereas a souped-up Beetle would be. So it's quite an interesting concept. Yeah.
So that's a good one, Matt Andrew.
Porsche goes like off a shovel.
Let's have a look at another one. Let's see what else we got. Okay, all right. So this is Peter Giles with a Aston Martin Vulcan. So this is the base Hot Wheels model that, as you can see, started 8th of September 2020, and here it is all finished up. So
looking rather very Japanese, isn't it? Very oriental, very.
It's that sort of graffiti effect that it's gone for.
Yeah.
Which it needs a bit of touching up.
You can see the sort of drift accent there, where it would be throwing itself into a corner at high speed, but I'd like to see a few more guns.
It's got plenty. It's got the two coming out of the radiator.
And spiky bits, more spiky bits.
Spiky bits and rust tend to be my go-to.
Yes, I love rust. Yeah.
You get
in rust we trust.
In rust we trust. You get a lot of people. They'll make cars for gaslands, and they'll do these beautiful, clean builds, but then they don't want to dirty it. They don't want to. But at the end of the day, these games, they're in the desert, they're in destroyed apocalyptic cities. So yeah, they would be a fine patterner. Wouldn't go amiss.
If there was a criticism, and there isn't really. I mean, this is picking fly. where he's marked out the A post on the top of the screen.
Yeah,
I would use perhaps a gel pen. A silver gel
pen
or something like that, because it's a little bit feathered. Works great on the other graphics, but where you want something pin sharp like that, because it's quite a sleek car, I would have just used something that was really delineated.
One of the oldest tricks in the book is just, if you don't think you can do it with a paintbrush, just use a pen. It can be as easy as that.
The gel pens, you can get them in silver, you can get them in gold.
Because you can see what he's gone for. Because
it looks really good
on the actual Hot Wheels car. You can see that is actually textured. There is actually a groove already in there.
Right.
So yeah, you use a gel pen, just follow along that crease. It worked fine.
Great.
But there you go. That's another. And this is 2 weeks in. People are already finishing up their builds, which is just insane. So
Back.
to look at Gasland UK Car of the Month for July 2020.
Coming
That's
to you
right.
live here from the Flamingo Lounge, Las Vegas, Nevada.
The sunny favelas of Nuneaton.
Nuneaton.
We should have like an orange tint
In
over
the
the
superior part of Britain, the Midlands.
The Midlands. Beating heart of the country. No one likes. No one remembers.
Everybody hates
Everyone drives straight past.
It's true.
Right, so looking at the sports car one, because I think this would be quite good.
Yeah.
Starting with Chris John with Star Driver Pharaoh, which was quite a strange one, because it's from that sort of very like Rocket Age sort of era of car design that Hot Wheels had going on for a bit. So it's all about the paint job there. But
beautifully graphic, I'd say, beautifully graphic, and I love the checkered graphic. Is fantastic. Actually, it looks really nice, and that gives it a real sort of retro feel as well. I particularly like the jet thruster things as well. They're quite nice. But very, very Hot Wheels, very, very in keeping with the tradition of what Hot Wheels is all about.
The next one, this one, okay, Gabriel Frost's car here. Okay, this is your more classic sort of sports car in the wasteland, stick a gun on it, based off of a Lamborghini or Porsche or something. But it is quite nice when we do see more images of it. You can see he's even tried adding some little air intake vents on the side and plastic art, which is very good.
That makes it a lot more aggressive. One of the problems with classic sports cars, particularly Italian sports cars, is they can be quite feminine, because these are beautiful, she has wonderful lines. But when you put them in a Gasland's context, they become quite aggressive monsters.
Yeah.
A lot more attractive. A lot more...
macho. The
macho.
machismo goes through the roof all of a sudden.
They appear to be able to really move and take on any terrain, and that's what I really like about the whole Gaslands thing. Nothing will stop these vehicles, which is wonderful. Not what you would say about a Vauxhall Corsa.
Well, no. There's a big, when it comes to, if I do more like that, there you go. There's a big element of raising the car profile off the ground. You see a lot in the Mad Max films, because more often than not, these sports cars, they are designed to be flat to the road, with like millimeters of air between the body and the floor. But
I've discussed this for years with people. There is a very fine line between sports car, which is very low to the ground, and dodgem car, which is also very low to the ground. Or skateboard, or roller skate. And the problem with sports cars is you have to kneel down to get into them, And in Gasland, you want something that you have to stand on a box to get into.
You jump inside of and then just start fighting.
Perhaps impale yourself on something sharp as you get in.
You try to get into your own car.
That would be quite marvellous.
Yes. When we get to Maciej Matrak, as a personal favourite of mine from Poland, didn't you know? Good old Maciej Matrak with Kinko, which is Japanese for something or other.
Yes.
But yeah, absolutely beautifully done bone white car that he painted. And white can be a real sucker to paint. Like it's such a difficult thing to get if it's so clean.
Makes everything look bigger as well if something's white. But I love the yin and yang. It's quite interesting, the graphic. I mean, if I had a criticism, and it's not really, it's really not a criticism, there is a kind of manga thing going on there. And if you're not into manga, it might cheapen the whole project. But I'm into manga, so I like to see it.
Yeah.
Particularly around the windscreen, the delineation between the windscreen and the body is very, very manga, which I think is obviously the essence of Japanese design.
Well, that's the big one right there, because you can see in this image you've got that police interceptor next to it, which looks really nice. But they do almost look separate. Like it's so clean and it's so cell shaded and graphic, it almost looks like it doesn't quite belong next to that. because it is so clean. But it's one of those, I say to people, just a little bit of dirt or a scratch or rust or any combat damage, and it'll fit right in like a charm.
Yeah, just a little rust texture, perhaps some streaks of dirt across the screen or something like that.
You get like
dirty
a single blood splat or something, and the whole thing just comes together. Get a bullet hole.
It'd be quite interesting to have a Norwegian theme, actually. Because in Norway they've got such a very high suicide rate, and there'd be very cars to kill yourself in.
With the suicide doors.
Suicide doors. Ejector seats for the DB5 retro people.
So here we are looking at Matt Reeves. This takes an actual Games Workshop Dark Future, which was their Mad Max tabletop game. It takes one of those cars they made for that and sort of brings it into the modern age by updating the paint job and all this. But the one thing that gets me is, has he gone a bit mad with the decals? Has he gone a bit too...
He has gone a little crazy, but this really, really reminds me of Daniel Simon's races. If you're aware of Daniel Simon, he did some very futuristic racing cars, and it kind of looks like that, because the sort of... There is a lot to look at with the decals, but these things take on a life of their own after a while, and the more you look at it, the more you get into it. And the roll cage around the front, and those fantastic pods with the cannons coming out. I think that's fantastic with the checker tape around them or whatever. It's wonderful. I think it really works.
The orange and white is always such a good combo, but then you've got the blue interior, because teal and orange is all the range and always will be.
That's right.
But there's always something nice about seeing one of those classic cars being brought into the modern era. But I talk about this when it comes to Dead Reckoning. You got to have some clear surfaces, and he's really covered like nearly every bit of it with a rivet or a decal or just something.
It'd be kind of interesting to get a UV light.
Hey, we can take some tablets now.
Alright. So if you're in a dark room in a UV
with
light,
a UV light or a black light, as they're known sometimes, the white would really ignite, and it'd be very interesting because you would be able to read. It would add a new dimension to the decals, because the whiteness sort of bleaches through. That'd be quite interesting, actually. Cars to look at in the dark. Oh God! Bring back luminous paint. Where is luminous paint?
There is luminous paint. All right, so last one now, just before we have to say goodbye, children. We are dealing with the winner from last month, Tony Peacock, with his Lamborghini Diablo, which he did in a cyberpunk style, which is this month's theme. So I thought it'd be quite interesting just to look at that and sort of see what kind of ideas people might carry over into this month, or you name it.
I think one of the most amazing things about this is the beautiful dry brushing. I love that. I love the dry brushing. I love the checker plate. There's the tiny little bits of texture that make it look so real. But I think it's quite techno. Quite techno.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of this sort of suggestion of under the hood modification with all these wires and cables. You look at the dogged state of the car that he had to work with.
That's great.
Well, it came from that. Missing like 3 wheels.
It came from the canal.
and then it turns into this wonderfully painted, finished piece, and that's what it's all about.
The gardens of Britain, 2 inches underneath the lawn, will have toys that have been implanted there in 1965
by children.
Dig them out. Let's look at them now.
See the state of them now.
Yeah, absolutely nice. I think but it's beautiful dry brushing. Beautifully done. I love the detailing on the front bodies as well. I think that's quite nice. Those two almost worm-like
cables. And,
that's right. It'd be nice to see some copper wire somewhere, wouldn't it? Some raw electrical copper wire.
This is kind of getting into the other side of the spectrum now. Like, when we look at Matt Reeves, it's just covered in decals and details and stuff, and you can't. The body of the car doesn't quite breathe. This is the other end where it's so minimalist. It's like there's so little on there that's been added after the fact. It's like, well, How do you? What could you add to make it different, to improve it, as it were?
Well, I mean, one of the things from the original model before it was altered in any way or customised is the fact that it's so covered in these sinewy, cobwebby type texture, and I would like to see that dry brushed on. That would be quite nice down, so ivy or something like that. I think there's such a lot going on. And being I think it's a mid-engine car, isn't it? So it's
Lamborghini.
Was it rear engine? It's
rear engine, isn't it?
So you've got a lot of aspiration there. There's a lot of air got to be sucked in to cool the engine, and I think you could have funnels and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Well, the next level for this would be to take these vents at the back and just put like a thin line of black paint across it to really indicate that there's an intake there.
Draw your eye to it. Yeah, that'd be great.
But it's all about the sort of the classic bodies of the cars at the end of the day. But yeah, so that brings us to the end of our introspective works. I've got this big sweaty red bit now on the floor. It's horrendous. It's just yes, thank you for having a look at these with me, Father.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to experience some of the wonderful wealth of inventive creation that's going on.
Creative types that we have.
The Gaslands community, which I think is a very, very healthy place to be.
Yeah.
I think it's good that people are just making things. They're not just for phones, Make stuff, it's fantastic. And in the future, people will look at these in 30 years' time and think, wow, did I really make that? Or, wow, where did that come from? And you could see this would be the way that car design would go, because people are getting quite tired of the blandness. And it's certainly not bland.
I think there's a huge community of people into this now, but I think it's only going to grow because it's so accessible and it's so easy and it's not there aren't rules set in place regarding this yet.
No. Well, that's right. It's very adventurous, modelling. It's marvellous, and there's a fantasy element as well running through it. And I'm sure that people see themselves driving these vehicles.
Oh yeah!
Wow, this would be great. Yeah, wonderful, very good.
Yeah. It's a whole different take on the car modelling thing. Because if you think about all the modelling you did back in the day, I know you did it was like a Mercedes or something that you stretched out, or like a Mini that you stretched out the scale model of. But like when it comes to car design, it's all quarter scale, full scale. Like, there's none of this. There's no toys in big industry car design at Ford, at General Motors. We don't mess around with toys. But
you say that, but Richard Rawlings with Fast and Loud, they have done a full-size Hot Wheels car.
They have.
In fact, they've done 2 full-size Hot Wheels cars. At West Coast Customs, another digital show that is made in America, they have done stuff that's been really inspired by Hot Wheels. I think the sort of over-pumped steroid car it's best to stay away from electric. Leave the electric alone.